Kevin and it's Marina. We were just laughing because our dear colleague that we love so much set us up with a business basics to go over today. And we thought we had a different subject. So we were behind the scenes, just getting prepped and ready to give you an awesome episode. So business basics, Marina's really going to go over three things that she's seen previously. And then I'm going to throw in a few wild cards like I usually do with Marina, and she's going to hold them like a champ. So why you guys should tune in, if you're interested in herbalism and utilizing like functional medicine in practice, the one step that's always necessary is, how am I actually going to use it? How am I going to make money, with this and make a living for myself? So we'll jump into that in just a second. Marina, I've missed you. It feels like it's been a long time, and it's probably because I went to APHA over the weekend and I came back. I did not hear anything about herbalism over at APHA, which I feel like was a big miss there for me. But I will check with all the folks that attended about some of the things that are happening in currently alternative medication world. But I think maybe part of it, Marina, is they don't know how to tie it into business as well. It's just not something, the didactic training, that we really connect the dots on. But before we connect those dots, I do want you to talk about your amazing podcast so that people know about this show we have so much fun on, and that podcast where you bring incredible guests on too.
Yes, absolutely. So really quick, a plug for my podcast is it's really for anybody that is interested in learning more about how professionals, whether you're a pharmacist or you come from a different background, have pivoted to a more aligned career path involving a holistic modality or herbalism. So I interview all kinds of people there. And then we've also recently been having journal clubs about herbs and holistic modalities like essential oils, et cetera, and kind of just showing you what the data really does say about these things. It's not just made up, and there's tons of historical evidence, traditional evidence, as well as the evidence we like to see in literature.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I know it's super fun. I think some of the guests you've had on are so interesting with really diverse backgrounds and experiences on how they came into the space, which is inspiring, lots of different ways. And when it comes to, I guess, you being in the space and being inspired to work in this space, Marina, the business models or the business basics of herbalism, what was your first kind of foray into this herbalism world?
Yeah, so herbalism hasn't been like the intuitive next logical step for me after pharmacy. However, it really should have been in retrospect, looking back. It ties in so well with what we already have in pharmacy. And I keep saying in other countries, it is fully integrated into the acceptable and practiced medical systems. So it's really interesting that there were some key factors that played a huge role about why America doesn't integrate it or doesn't recognize it or considers it alternative, as we've said. But it really is the precursor to all modern medicine and all pharmaceutical medicine as well. So plant-sourced phytochemicals have inspired drug therapy, and now drug therapy is the standard. So it's so interesting that we just denounce, the original precursor, and we find all of these things and ways to not look at it further and just kind of close the door on it now that we have, the new kids on the block and these drugs. But I think that's a shame. I think there's a lot in the natural world that is so beautiful, even from things like forest bathing, right? Just spending more time and grounding into nature, and also having this symbiotic and synergistic relationship between humans and the natural world, because we are part of the natural world. We shouldn't really be separating it like, okay, these are the synthetic things that are the way to go. So in my opinion, we should always be relying and grounding and coming from a really nice foundation of utilizing natural therapies and modalities and prevention and large-scale efforts to have this nice synergy and symbiosis with nature and preserve our environment so that it can continue to heal us and support us. And so that's the big thing for me about why I love promoting and teaching and educating on herbal medicine. And that's actually one of my main business pillars, is through education, just allowing people to have this knowledge, to yield this knowledge, and to have a more one-on-one relationship. Like, you don't necessarily need another intermediary between you and nature. It's really accessible to all of us, and we can think about plants as food and plants as medicine, keep harping on this. And so that is really what herbalism is. And so after pharmacy school, I just went through a whole bunch of different trainings. And then when I came across herbalism, I was like, wow, it's a no-brainer. This is so synergistic to what skills I already have. And I want to learn more about these alternative plants that we can utilize as medicine. And so that was my first foray into it.
Okay. So it was just really the educational process of going there. And then you were talking before, I mean, just to lay out for the audience that there are really three main ways of thinking about how to go into herbalism in general. And those are the clinical kind of aspect, that you're doing individual services, that you're sometimes blending, exactly what Marina was just talking about, blending many elements of care with herbalism. The other piece is really looking at products, like producing products, selling products, educating on products that are in the herbalism space or the whole plant kind of space. And then the last one is what we were just talking about there, is the education. So you went and received that education. Now you educate others about it and have kind of a holistic approach. One thing I will plug for you, usually after you and I talk, like I live up in the woods. And so for me, it's a busy day. And by the time I'm done, just like everybody else out there, it's nighttime. But I try to get a walk out in the woods every day just to be able to do that, Marina, like just to reconnect. I think for all of us, we have different ways of approaching it. But from a business like kind of standpoint, it's one thing to be able to jump into business basics together today, which is great. The other one is be able to connect what we're doing with our businesses, which is we have to treat ourselves as whole people. And oftentimes we miss that inside of medicine. So on the clinical side, Marina, how do you bring people into that for that business basics of people are going, I just want to come in and just, here, I've got this ill and you give me this pill. How are you able to attract people to think, one, a different way, and two, be able to tie those things that are be able to offer that in that business?
Yes, Kevin. And that's exactly what I actually do with my program and my community of other professionals that have asked me to guide them into mentorship, for mentorship opportunities, and just asking me like how it is that I got into the space. There's really three main steps. So the first step has to be education, right? Like you can't really do any of the other things unless you know more. And a lot of people get started on this, and then some people stay in this phase and never branch out because they never feel ready, right? So there's a lot of analysis paralysis that can go on, but really this has to be the foundation. Just like we got educated in pharmacy school and we feel confident in our skills after rotations and having the application part of it. So the second part has to be the application and getting your clinical confidence and experiential, right? The way that you experience the plants yourself and with your community. So this could be like a whole art and a practice, right? That's why we even call it herbal practice or medical practice. It is really a practice, right? Because you have to have the experience before you can really feel like, yes, you can confidently help people with this. You have to actually like see it and experience it and witness it. And so the second step after education has to be the like know-how, the application, the skills, right? And then the third step is going to be the monetization. And so here there's those three additional options where you can go the education route, continue to educate others so they could help themselves, right? Because you don't need to essentially see people one-on-one to educate them on what they could do at their home, what they could do in their garden, you know, and the benefits of the plants that they could learn for themselves. So that's a beautiful path that I really admire and enjoy and do myself. And then the second one is working that clinical route. So whether it's a one-on-one setting or also having a one-to-many or group setting where you have a clinic. Some people have free or low cost or sliding scale herbal clinics. Some people have a high-end service. So depending on your community and your thoughts, some people have both options, right? So they could monetize and also offer back and give back to those who can't afford it. But honestly, plants themselves are not as expensive as other supplements, and especially not as expensive as drugs. The reason why we tend to go towards the drugs is because we have insurance policies that cover them, but they cost thousands, if not millions of dollars, right, for each month of care. And then we have to continue to put people on these things and continue to build the insurance, but they're not free. They cost a lot of money to produce and manufacture, and all the reasons why the quality control and et cetera has to be there, which is great. But when you're comparing it to herbs are actually a lot cheaper. They're just not generally covered by insurances. So that's the thing. And then when you do go to that product space, right, that third way of monetizing, so you can make your own products. You can either, do your own DIY homegrown thing where you just save money on products and you make it for yourself or maybe your community. You can make it official. You can get a GMP compliant company, and I've actually interviewed a person who did that, who was able to like scale from her own kind of starting up from scratch to enlisting other farms around the area and then around the country to build up a really viable company. So look out for that episode. A Wooden Spoon Herbs is the name of the company. Yes.
Okay.
So
we'll put it in the show notes. Great.
Exactly. That's going to be coming up. So check them out. So it's either you're making your own products or you're earning commission. So say I have a virtual dispensary that I work with my clinical patients and clients on. And so I can earn, if I choose to, commission on the products that I'm recommending without having a physical pharmacy or herb shop to sell from.
Wow. Okay. So I've got a ton of questions and we only have a little bit of time. So I'll try to be quick with these, Marina. Really, when it comes to my mindset on herbalism in general, one of the biggest issues is accessibility. Like, even if that is just a mindset component, we just don't think of, when we have a problem, we think I should go see someone that has an herbalism background, or even before I have a problem, go and see a practitioner that has an herbalism, background for this information. And so for these business basics, Marina, helping that shift, society is looking one direction and we feel like we've got an incredible offering for them. Not only feel, but we know we have evidence over thousands of years. We have an incredible offering for them that can pull them away from something that is, leading them down the wrong spaces. How do we get that pivot, in different settings? You and I have talked about it culturally in other episodes, but in this one, from a business standpoint of finding your total addressable market and then getting them to look at you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can talk about marketing, right? So this is probably the marketing piece of it, is to get in front of the potentially right audience that might be interested in purchasing from you. So we call that finding your ideal client, right? And sometimes your ideal clients already are looking for this solution. So your job is just to literally tell them, hello, I am here to offer you the solution that you're looking for. And then sometimes you will actually want to do additional education to those potential clients that might not yet know that you have the solution they're looking for, because they haven't really connected the dots that herbalism is a viable option. So it's about, growing and building your like and trust factor, and education marketing, I think, is a really good way to go. And nowadays everybody's using it because you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know that herbalism could help you, then you obviously wouldn't be looking for that as a solution.
Wow. What come to you analyzing kind of the market in your given area? Where have been areas, Marina? Because I'm just, thinking out loud here. I'm thinking, well, who is going to care about herbalism and want to hear the initial conversation, in general? Like, who would think that way? And oftentimes when I think segregated patient populations that are looking at herbalism in general, it can vary widely, but I'm thinking of oftentimes non-traditional utilizations of herbs in oncology patients are ones that I hear about all the time, that they want to find something else to do on top of their chemotherapeutic agents. And the other folks that I usually think of are those that are trying to live more holistic lifestyles, so that are part of doing practices or part of either fitness or mind and mentality shifting kind of thought processes, that those businesses would be akin to what we're trying to do. But give me your expert insights.
Yeah, I agree. I think no matter what disease states or diagnoses we have, there are segments of the population that either haven't found a good solution in Western approaches or have a lot of side effects that they're looking to decrease, or they can't afford it, or they've had bad experiences. So, they're looking for alternatives already, and herbalism can fall on their radar. And then other people that are either trying to conceive or get pregnant are another group that I always see, or have little kids that don't want to take drugs in those fragile states where, they want to support the body more naturally. And then other segments of the population, depending on where they live, if they've been exposed to kind of more like salt of the earth approaches versus like, let's say where I live, it's a concrete jungle. And, people probably don't intuitively think to connect with the plants and the land, but it's still available even in those places. So I think it really depends, can happen in all walks of life and all different stages and ages, and, what you've been exposed to through either a disease or through going through a phase of your life or through your, geographical location.
Makes so much sense. So really, I mean, like you were saying, you've got 3 different routes of kind of business basics to get in. And after you do so, one of the most important pieces is getting yourself out there appropriately, taking advantage of search engine optimization, getting things up and available for people to see you, doing educational sessions throughout the community, and then being able to identify that patient or client persona to be able to retarget so that you can go and serve that community that's likely to be able to take advantage of your services. Okay, that's amazing, Marina. Thank you for that education. Any parting words for the audience?
I don't know. I think we just covered it really quickly, which I'm amazed at. And I guess the parting words are, even though there's those 3 main areas that we outlined that could potentially allow you to monetize on herbalism, you don't have to do them all. But if you choose to do one or more of them, they could feed into each other like a nice cycle. So those are all great options. And within that, there's so much that can be available within each path to make it uniquely suited and aligned to what you're trying to do.
I love it. The only last fun thing I have for you, Marina, is so RPH Ally, because the Final Four is this weekend in basketball. I know Marina, I don't know Marina's athletic background, but I know she dances. So she's on my team, which I'm happy for because she's athletic. So it is education against support channels. And so the group that gets the most new members wins. And so we're going to put that on social for you guys to check out. We have a referral campaign. So if you guys want an RPH Ally hat or t-shirt or anything else along those lines, we'll hook you up. And the group that wins, those support individuals or those educational individuals, will then get the exact same swag. So we can get the RPH Ally stuff pushed across our team too. And then you guys already know Marina and I are on the education channel, so we're going to win, of course. But we're okay with you adding on some membership and the support too, just not as much. But anyway, that's the only other fun thing we have going over the weekend. And otherwise, Marina, everybody have a wonderful rest of the day, and we will talk to you next week.